With a game series as popular as Fallout, with so many eyes on every project, it's hard to believe that we are still finding things we didn't know before as longtime fans. Whether you got into the games back in the 90s with the classic titles, or more recently with their new breath of life, no one can argue the depth and attention to detail placed in the world of the Fallout universe. And if you want more depth and attention to detail, make sure to subscribe to the channel now for more content like this. I ain't gonna tell you again, boy. This is especially true when it comes to Fallout New Vegas, a game that has been out for a decade at the time of this recording. I am still surprised to learn new facts and tidbits about a game world that I have spent hundreds of hours in. Whether it's a small piece of cut content or some interesting facts about a voice actor, I find a lot of joy in learning new things about this phenomenal setting. Just looking around the Mojave, even after all this time, it still never fails to tell a beautiful story at every corner. Small details and evocative locations litter the world space in a truly fantastic experience. On a personal level, I generally always played the game the same way for the most part, following most quests on my way to New Vegas and then helping all the factions I could until eventually siding with the NCR. This has led me to not really remembering much outside that path. The things I would do in this traditional playthrough I knew like the back of my hand, but the further I steered outside from that path, the less I would remember. I have done everything there is to do in New Vegas at least once on paper. I have all the Xbox achievements, I've done all the quests, and I've met all the major NPCs. Most of the time, after doing these things outside my normal gameplay once, I wouldn't really revisit them. This has culminated with me pretty much relearning these things when streaming. People who have more experience with those quests or have a better memory than me often tell me something that I'd forgotten entirely or didn't know in the first place. I have also shown off knowledge that I have gathered that most people in stream chats didn't seem to know, and that was really the inspiration behind this video. Gathering these little known facts through that experience was an excellent way to see what people widely didn't know about the game. To start, let's talk about something that some people did seem to know about but still surprised a lot of people when I showed them. My favorite character in New Vegas, the smiling face on the welcome sign. I found this little guy after I started filming videos and creating content in New Vegas, and I have often featured this doodle in uploads from the past. This is one of my favorite small details in the game. Seemingly drawn in dust inside the letter O in welcome, it serves as a friendly face as weary travelers approach the shining city. Not much is known about who drew this or why it's here. I suspect the Ranger from the intro of the game got a little bored one day. Whatever the case, this smiley brightens my day every time I see it, and most people who see it on my streams say they haven't seen it before. But it's pretty widely known, so I wanted to mention it first before we go into the deep end with these facts. Another section that can be easily overlooked by most people who just play the game is the voice actors. I have found that many viewers are surprised at just how many celebrities are featured in New Vegas. Matthew Perry as Benny, Wayne Newton as Mr. New Vegas, Chris Christopherson as Hanlon, series narrator Ron Perlman, Zachary Levy as Arcade Gannon, William Sadler as Victor, the late great Rene Aubergenois as Mr. House, Michael Dorn as Marcus, Danny Trejo as Raoul, John Doman as Caesar, Felicia Day as Veronica, Dave Foley as Yes Man, and the list goes on. But one voice actor that fans are surprised to hear the history of is Jason Marsden, who plays first recon sniper and professional sad boy Craig Boone. As the cold NCR vet is a far leap from his previous work as Salem the Cat on Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but an even more significant jump from Max Goof, Goofy's son from the Disney classic The Goofy Movie. This is not his first time in the Fallout series, as Marsden voiced Myron in Fallout 2 and Horace and Hassan's characters in Fallout Tactics. This is pretty well known, but I see people surprised by it when it comes up in streams and in comments. But one voice acting fact about Fallout New Vegas that most viewers don't know centers around the atomic Wrangler Crier. Voice actress Ashley McGullum would take this role, which is pretty out of place as the rest of her characters are the various female children that populate the Mojave, as, at the time of release, McGullum was 13 years old, having been born in 1997. Typically, a child playing an adult wouldn't be much to talk about, but the only adult McCullum plays has some lines that are pretty shocking to hear a 13-year-old girl say.
Hungry? Thirsty? Horny? The Atomic Wrangler has you covered.
This is a casting decision I can't really understand, though I try to look at it like this. The Criers in Freeside are children or teens. Perhaps the casting director's idea was that since the Crier is a teen, she should be voiced by a female child voice actress. Whatever the case may be, it has undoubtedly caused me to think differently about the lines the Crier says. Regardless, it is a strange choice in roles for the young actress when the development team had many adults that could easily fit the role. Another character that McGollum voices leads to our next fact perfectly. Many players know about the sad story of Lilly Bowen, the lovable nightkin that lives in Jacobstown. It seems as if little Jimmy, Lily's grandson, and his sister Becky were set to appear in some aspect, Becky being the character voiced by McGollum. Although the grandkids are only mentioned in New Vegas, the NPCs can still be spawned into the game using console commands. Aside from the kids being cut from New Vegas, their home of Vault 17 was as well. The story is that the people who lived there were kidnapped by the Unity and turned into super mutants, while Lily, 75 years old at the time, was turned into a nightkin by the Master's army. Strangely enough, the concept art of Fallout 4 features mock-ups of Vault 17 jumpsuits. Speaking of characters, one essential person to the plot of Fallout New Vegas is Benny, the slick guy from the strip that shoots the Crier and leaves them for dead outside of Goodsprings. Most people are surprised to find out that Benny is based on a real person, American mobster Benjamin Bugsy Siegel. Siegel was the driving force behind the development of the Las Vegas Strip. With his ties to the Jewish mob and connections deep within the Italian-American mafia, Bugsy was one of the first celebrity gangsters. After some failed attempts at opening hotels after the Prohibition era, Siegel would be shot dead at his girlfriend's home in 1947. The similarities to Bugsy don't stop at Benny's personality. His trademark suit is very clearly modeled after suits Siegel wore quite often. This is another tremendous detail that pays homage to the actual history of Las Vegas within the game world and, to me, shows a lot of respect for the existing lore of the town outside the game. Another character that people seem to be off about is Mr. House, de facto leader of the Strip during the events of New Vegas. Once a petty business mogul, House now exists in a special type of hell in the post-war world. Confined to a pod in his physical form, his consciousness exists behind a screen, barking orders to others to make his dreams come true. Due to his appearance, many people liken him to Walt Disney. Still, in fact, a character based on Walt Disney exists in the Fallout universe in John Caleb Bradburton, the Nuka-Cola Corporation CEO and founder. This is amplified by including his head in a jar in the Nuka World DLC as well as the theme park itself, as many rumors surround Walt Disney's death and how his remains are being kept, with many people believing that Disney's head is being kept alive in the same way and many others thinking he was cryogenically frozen. Despite the resemblance to Disney, Mr. House actually takes after Howard Hughes, in appearance and personality as well. Many people have argued that various business moguls led to Robert House's creation, but we can see the resemblance is uncanny even without a similar nature. Another widely misunderstood section of Fallout New Vegas is the fate of the Bright Brotherhood, the religious cult ghoul followers of Jason Bright who are looking to go on the great journey to the far beyond. Due to the rocket ships and mentions of high radiation, many people have reasonably believed that Jason and his flock are trying to get to another planet, where they can live and thrive in the healing glow. This is absolutely not the case. Not only do the rockets used by the ghouls not offer the power needed for interplanetary travel, but the ghouls would also likely die after a short time in actual space. Regardless of the use of their flimsy spacesuits, they know nothing that would aid them in landing and creating a settlement on another celestial body like the moon. This all fits with the fact that the rockets, when appropriately launched, do not go straight up into the atmosphere. Instead, they travel across the skyline, taking off behind the player. Even though the rockets seem to veer north, I'm pretty confident that they are on a flight to Dayglow, a city of refuge for ghouls after the Great Migration from the destroyed necropolis. Dayglow represents San Diego's remains, named from the slang of Dago and the residual radiation that persists in the area due to being so close to the West Tech facility, also known as the Glow. Dayglow would be a 100-hour walk from the current location, and the dangers on the way there are said to make anything in the Mojave look like child's play. Because of this, Dayglow makes the most sense as a destination in the lore of the series. Not to mention that if the trip is successful and the Courier sides with either the NCR or the Legion, some Bright Brotherhood return to Novac to help with either scenario for the second Battle of Hoover Dam, something that would be impossible to do if they had gone to space. Finally, I want to touch on something relatively overlooked by players of New Vegas, and it involves the beautiful soundtrack. In my personal opinion, the soundtrack of New Vegas is one of, if not the best in the series, especially when adding ambient tracks from the classic games with mods. But some are surprised to find out that game director Josh Sawyer actually contributes to the soundtrack in a major way. Somewhat of a musician himself, Sawyer adds a few of his own songs to the game. One of the most significant contributions is the song The Streets of New Reno, which can be heard by completing the talent pool quest for the Tops Casino. It will then be performed by the Lonesome Drifter, fabled son of the mysterious stranger.
As I walked out in the streets of New Reno, as I walked out in New Reno one day, I spied a young cowboy all wrapped in white linen, wrapped in white linen and cold as the clay.
This song, as well as many others, were written and performed by Sawyer. Home on the Waste, New Vegas Valley, and the tune Cobwebs and Rainbows were added to the soundtrack and gave an awesome folk vibe to an already stellar setting Fallout New Vegas provides. I hope you learned something from the video today, and if you did, make sure to leave a like so I know that you enjoyed it. If you did know everything I talked about today, you are the most critical viewer of all. Hit the comments with the facts you think few people know about, and I will be happy to look into them for future videos on the subject. Fallout New Vegas is a phenomenal experience, and it's gratifying to continue to learn things about it after 10 years of exploring it. Who knows what else the Mojave may be hiding from us. Thank you for checking out my video on little known New Vegas facts, and if you liked it, like I said, leave a like down there so I know. Subscribe for more content just like this. I want to thank my patrons and YouTube channel members, but a special thanks to my biggest supporters: Zeroster, JP Rivera, Fireflare, Ruben Atwood, Legendary Angel 94, Irk the Irk, Phil Starsig, Hatchbred Gaming, Papa Swanson, Billy Joe Jimbob, Bill Scott Sheets, Edgy, and Primark Mustard. Thank you guys so much for all the support. Couldn't do it without you. Hope to catch you on the next one. It has been Mantis.
I gotta testify. Come up in the spot looking extra fly. For the day you die, you gon' touch the sky. You gon' touch the sky, baby girl. Testify. Come up in the spot looking extra fly. For the day you die,